green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
It is a football Monday here on Birds 365. Hopefully your weekend was a good one. We appreciate you jumping back aboard with us here on Birds 365 on this Monday. You got your Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald. Johnny Mac, the countdown is now officially on. We have reached single digits until when camp opens for the Philadelphia Eagles, or at least they report on Tuesday of next week. Can you feel it?
Yeah, I'd like to have a schedule, so I'll start the show off, closed circuit to the Eagles. How about putting out that training camp schedule? But when I get that schedule, it'll feel real. It was interesting. Two teams, I think, are having rookies report today.
Correct.
Back in the old days, rookies would report a little bit before veteran players for every team. Now few teams do it, but
right.
So
it's not that far back in the day, Johnny Mac. It's still going on in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, it used to be all 32 teams. Now it's only a few. Keep that old school mentality. But yeah, a couple teams are already gearing up today. So we're basically here, Jody. We're here.
We have arrived, and as you said, you're still holding out for the Eagles schedule when they let you guys know. Here's one thing, and we get our guys on the stream who comment to us. I will say this tonight when I host on WIP. I'm done with the woe is us, we don't have Lehigh anymore conversation.
Wow, good.
For the year.
I'm done with it.
It's done, okay? Do I wish the Eagles had open practices? Yes. Do we all wish that we could get our own two eyes on the Eagles leading up to a season? Yes. It's not happening. It's 10 years since it has happened, so we need to let that go. The trek up the Northeast extension to be able to watch the Eagles go through. A lot has changed in the last 10 years. Even a lot has changed in the last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. So now let's put the woe is us, we don't have Lehigh whining aside and get this season underway, and they will do just that 8 days from now. And oh, by the way, if you need to know what the hell's going on with the Eagles at practice, I give you John McMullen. He will be there every single day. He'll get complete grass time with every other Eagle beat reporter. You can get your firsthand account of what goes on in the Eagles workouts. I'm not ready to call them practices yet. When they run their first 11-on-11 drill, then it will officially be practice. Until then, it's just a workout. John will be here to report all the workout activity, eventual practice activity. You'll know exactly what the hell's going on because John McMullen will tell you so.
Yeah. Oh, well, I will do my best, Jody. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I'm one of the people. I'm not complaining about making the trek up to Lehigh. It's fine for me. I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. But I'm just looking at the list. Actually, there are. I already got to correct myself. There are still more teams that bring in the rookies early than not. The Bills and the Raiders are the first teams in, and they're in today. And that's what I was talking about. It's about, half and half, I guess, but still more bring in their rookies a little bit early. Not the Eagles. Why bother? Why bother?
And again, I will call them practices when they actually go 11 on 11. The less is more Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see if it works for them this year. It makes me roll my eyes, but I will not declare it a mistake because we don't know that that's the case until they actually get playing games and the like. All right, Johnny Mac, I saw an interesting spot on one of the Eagle websites that I check every single day, and Inside the Eagles. And they asked an intriguing question that I thought would be fun that you and I could start with today. We got two good guests joining us, by the way. Scott Grayson, our bud, sports anchor from Fox 29, going to join us in less than 20 minutes from now. And then our favorite, can I use the word curmudgeon?
Yeah, sure.
Does the word curmudgeon fit for our boy Bob Grotz of the Delco Times?
He can out curmudgeon me, so that's pretty impressive.
I love whenever we get Grotz on. He's a hard hitter, and he just doesn't tell you that the glass is half full when it's half empty. So Grotz is going to join us a little bit later. We can run this by both of those two guys. You and I are both optimistic for the upcoming Eagles season. We're definitely projecting and predicting double-digit wins. You and I both are at 11, as a matter of fact, which is a pretty damn good season if the Eagles can go 11-6 this year. So please don't paint either one of us as Bob Grotz, pessimistic. No, we're both optimistic, as a matter of fact. But from time to time, we like to look at things through a pessimistic prism so that we get some balance to what is going to transpire in this upcoming season. And they chose to do this Inside the Eagles today. Eagles scapegoats. If, as John McMullen and Jody McDonald project, the Eagles don't win 11 games, they don't win 10 games, maybe they don't even win 9 games, which would only equate to what they did last year. And if they don't get 9, they're not making a play. They're not getting into the playoffs. This is not going to be, as it was a couple of years ago, a historically bad, nobody gets to 500 division. So if they don't get their 9 win, they're not making the playoffs. Probably not happen. Neither John or I are predicting or projecting that, but it could happen. We can't discount it 100%. If the Eagles have an underachieving season, Johnny Mac, somebody's got to feel the wrath. Somebody's got to pay a price. Somebody's going to feel the hammer of that lack of success. Eagles scapegoats for the 2022 season. What order would you put potential Eagles scapegoats in before we even get our first workout of 2022 underway?
Potential order of scapegoats. I would say number 1 would be the quarterback, because it's always the quarterback. But I put Jonathan Gannon in the conversation. He's 1A. And Jalen's so likable. But by the way, I don't know why people don't like Jonathan Gannon. If they got to spend 5 minutes with him, they would like him. But for some reason, the fan base. Well, we know why, because he doesn't play the way they like. So he's on that list. And then I think Nick's pretty insulated this early in his career. The head coach is always going to get criticism. But as far as being a scapegoat, to me, scapegoat means you're losing your job. You're getting fired. Nick's not getting fired this early in the process. So you would have to look at probably Shane Steichen as sort of number 3 if things go wrong, because then you'll have the pressure from above, the Jeffrey Lurie come looking for Mike Rowe type situation. We got to make an example out of somebody. It might even be lesser, might be Kevin Patullo, might be Brian Johnson, because Jalen Hurts failed. But one of those key lieutenants to Nick Sirianni would be the next in line to pay the price. But the most obvious are the quarterback, who will pay the price. In fact, that they will look for another quarterback. They will go in a different direction. And the defensive coordinator, might take a big hit as well.
I think you've got them in the exact right order, J-Mac. It's quarterback 1. It's defensive coordinator 2. It's fill in whatever other coach you want to name, not name Nick Sirianni, on his staff as number 3. And 2 guys who probably aren't going to make the list. Because, yes, I agree with you. And you defined it well. Scapegoat means more than just critique from Eagle Nation. There's some pressure applied thereafter. Maybe the ultimate pressure of losing your job, but certainly some pressure applied from above. Out of these 2 guys, who neither one is going to make the top 3 of the list, but they'll certainly feel pressure if the Eagles have a major underachieving season, who is there more pressure on? And I guess it all depends on how the season goes, and we'll define every single little aspect of it, where the Eagles came up short, why the Eagles came up short. Is there going to be more pressure applied to Nick Sirianni or Howie Roseman? Because let's be honest, Howie Roseman has gotten a lot of praise. We understand that Howie is a lightning rod guy here in town. Some people love him. Some people can't stand him. When he does well, those who can't stand him run and hide. When he does poorly, those who want to defend him are nowhere to be found. We get it. There are people that are of split opinion on Howie Roseman. Most people this year, those that like Howie, have been front and center. Look at a great job Howie's done, blah, 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 which include John McMullen and Jody McDonald. And the Howie haters have kind of fallen off into the netherworld.
Yeah, where are they? Yeah. Where's those apologies, by the way? I never get an apology, Jody. Not once. You've been on the air since 1990 in Philadelphia. Have you ever gotten an apology?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you? I've never gotten one. I've never gotten one.
I got a couple over the years. Not few and far between, we'll put it that way, but I have gotten a couple. Howie's gotten a lot of praise, and we among them heaping it on him. If the moves don't work out, if the guys that he brought in aren't what they're supposed to be, if the draft class, which we think has been spectacular, really doesn't make near as big a difference as we thought, A.J. Brown ends up getting hurt and isn't the complement to Devontae Smith that we thought he was going to be, is it going to be more on Sirianni that these players underachieved, that the coach didn't have them in the right position? Or will people scrutinize the general manager and go, see, we told you one day, it's still stinking Howie Roseman. Where are all you Howie Roseman loving now? It didn't work. Who do you think's going to be on under a hotter spotlight, the GM or the coach? And the most important guy, of course, is the manager. McDonald's going to have his opinion. McMullen's going to have his opinion. Jeff McClain's going to have it. Yeah, they're all going to every precinct will be heard from. The most important precinct, of course, is the owner. Who do you think more scrutiny falls on if the Eagles underachieve?
It's different, right? Because the owner, it's not going to be Howie. Well, you don't have to worry about Howie's job security. So when we're talking about scapegoating, you don't have to worry about that. You can be angry at him, but he's not going anywhere. Then we talk about the head coach, and I think he's somewhat insulated by the quarterback, because I think the early narrative will be, if they underachieve this year, he will get that excuse. If A.J. Brown doesn't perform up to expectations, if he gets hurt, that's nobody's fault. I mean, true. Yeah. If he doesn't perform up to expectations, they'll say, well, we saw him play well in Tennessee. He didn't play well here because of the quarterback. You move forward with a different quarterback, and Nick has that insulation. But the clock will start ticking. Then you start saying, all right, in 2023, if things continue to go in a negative direction, then Nick is really on the hot seat. So he's got 12 months of insulation, I would say. As far as scapegoating, look, the on-field is the on-field. The coach is going to get more blame for that during as it's going on. Howie's not liked by a lot of people. Some will argue he's not likable. I disagree with that, but he doesn't come across maybe the way some people will like him, to the point where the average fan will like him. So he's always going to take hits. Same thing with Gannon. They just don't like the way he plays defense, so they don't like him. Doesn't matter success, failure. I want sacks. Doesn't matter. unless they come up with a Super Bowl championship. Everybody's going to say, you got to be more aggressive. You got to be more aggressive. You got to be Buddy Ryan. You got to be Buddy Ryan. It's just the way it is. With Howie, he's always going to get criticism. Always, always, always. But he's not in danger of losing his job. So if you talk about scapegoat to me, no, he's not going to be the scapegoat. But either's the head coach, because the head coach has insulation from the quarterback. The only difference is the clock starts on Nick Sirianni if they have a bad season, because you can't have 2 bad seasons in a row. So 2023, new quarterback, excuses, very, very similar to what we say this year about Jalen Hurts. People, whether you want to call them excuses, explanations, people would make, well, he's a young quarterback. He doesn't have weapons, blah, blah, blah. Some of that true. Certainly the young part, the evolving part, people make, they grade him on a curve. And now they say he's got everything. He's got A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith's got some experience. You got the great offensive line. You got the #1 rushing game. You got a great tight end, on and on and on. You got everything in place to succeed. No more excuses. That's what everyone says. That will be the coach next year. You got a first-round pick at quarterback. You got these same players that underachieved. No more excuses. So I think the clock would start ticking, if that makes sense, on Nick Sirianni.
Understood. And we also understand that it's very difficult to take personal tastes out of it, although that's what Jeffrey Lurie is going to be asked to do. When the season's over and done with, he should be able to just objectively look at why the Eagles didn't achieve what most people thought they were going to achieve, and put his overall feelings about Howie Roseman and the length of time that Howie Roseman's done his job, as compared to the head coach, will only be 2 years. If the quarterback is the main reason, and Jalen Hurts just isn't a guy that you can watch play and determine, all right, here's the guy you want to go forward with, and he's going to be your quarterback for the next several years. Who's more to blame for that? Certainly Jalen himself is, but someone has to hold hands with him on that evaluation. Is it the head coach who didn't get it out of him, who couldn't coach him up to be able to be good enough? Or is the general manager held accountable because, hey, you had all off season to go get another quarterback? Yeah, we know you inquired on Russell Wilson. Couldn't get it done. You inquired on Deshaun Watson. Couldn't get it done. Maybe you could have gone in another direction. At some point, you stood back and go, all right, never mind. Jalen's our guy. Who gets more critique, the head coach or the general manager, because the quarterback proves he's not the man here in Philadelphia?
I think the head coach, because a lot of it is, the thought process that how he went after big name guys, but he wouldn't, there was no interest in the Baker Mayfields of the world or the Jimmy Garoppolos of the world. The Eagles weren't interested in a lateral move or a slight upgrade. They wanted to hit a home run or nothing, and that's because supposedly they believe in Jalen Hurts and his ability to evolve. Well, who's got to evolve the quarterback? That's the coaching staff. Not only Nick Sirianni, but Shane Steichen, Kevin Patullo, Brian Johnson. But Nick's in charge of that. So if he regresses instead of progresses, and I don't think anybody in the Eagles certainly believes that's going to happen. It hasn't happened in his career to date. It wouldn't make sense to happen now. If you think about, this is the first time since his dad was coaching him in high school, he's had the same coaching staff, the same continuity. In theory, you should get better. Now, the back end of that, Jody, is everybody's got that Tampa tape now. Everybody in this league, it's a copycat league. Now, I always say, it is, but it's a very slow moving copycat league. That's when you get to the offseason, they get a chance to sit back. All they do is look at tape and look at film, say, oh, look at what Tampa did to stop Jalen Hurts. Everybody's going to try to do that. Now, everybody doesn't have Vita Vea blowing up the offensive line. Everybody doesn't have linebackers that can run. Everybody doesn't have safeties who can make plays. So you can maybe want to copy it, but not necessarily copy it. So it's going to be an interesting cat and mouse game. There is one thing, and I'm writing about this, and it'll be up soon, but This team didn't use any motion last year. They were 32nd in the National Football League when it came to movement, pre-snap movement. And when Doug left and Doug was fired, the narrative was, all right, gotten a little bit stale, not creative. You bring in the young, innovative guys, 32nd in the league with pre-snap motion. Now, you're talking to a person where I think that stuff is way overblown. I say all the time, you probably heard me say, Jody, people do not judge play calling. They judge play results. That's what they do. They don't understand it, but that's what they do. So it's more the perception of than the reality. But the perception is who's creative, right? Who's creative offensively? Sean McVay, Andy Reid, all these guys with the pre-snap motion, the eyewash, as Jim Schwartz would like to call it. Sean McVay himself calls his offense, and I love this term, love it, the illusion of complexity. It's not complex at all. He's trying to fool the defenders. He's trying to get them shaky. He's trying to get their eyes moving. He's trying to get them nervous. The illusion of complexity. It's not complex at all for the Rams. It looks complex for young defensive backs who lose their discipline, lose their eyes, lose what they're trying to do because players are moving all around the field. That's what the casual fan thinks is creative. It's not necessarily creative. My point of this whole dissertation, Jody, is the perception of Nick Sirianni, if he just lines up and plays football, will very quickly become he's not creative. And that's a 40-year-old guy who came in here with the billing up. He's going to be innovative. Doug's stale. Doug's this. Doug's that. And all of a sudden, they don't move at all. They played the game on Monday night where they got blitzed by the Dallas Cowboys early in the season. They didn't have one motion play offensively. I had to go back and look. Not one, which is kind of amazing if you think about it.
For me, maybe the only thing that's more overstated is the fact that, this is Jalen Hurts' second year in the system with the same coach and the same. Okay, that's going to make a hill of beans difference. We'll see. I don't necessarily buy that, but that's why we have Birds 365, so we can talk these things out and see what is or isn't overstated. We are going to share the stage next. Coming up, Scott Grayson from Fox 29 is going to jump aboard. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. It's Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Check.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the poles and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Countdown to the season is on. We're down to single-digit days. The Eagles report next Tuesday, so 8 and counting for us here on Birds 365, which means it's 8 and counting for our next guest, too. He is the sports anchor for the outlet that broadcasts the Eagles more than any other station here in town. On the TV side, that'd be Fox 29. Scott Grayson jumps in with us here on Birds 365. Mr. Grayson, you ready to get outdoors and do some Eagle B-roll?
I tell you, this week, maybe not so much. It's been pretty hot out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot one this week. I think we got 8 days of 90 plus. So I'm glad the Eagles are starting next week at least. Maybe
yeah, hopefully we'll
get a little bit break in the weather, Scott.
But it's not like it used to be with the 2 days and this kind of stuff.
No, yeah, we shouldn't complain. And we're going to only be out there for an hour and a half. So thanks to Nick Sirianni for that. Although I think it comes from the top, but whoever's in charge, I thank them for that. Where should we start, Scott? Jody and I were talking about expectations and about, the thought process of they've gotten to the point where, 2 things can happen. You either live up to the expectations and everything is hunky-dory, or glass is half full. Things are not quite as good as they were projected to be. And then comes scapegoat season. Who is more likely to be scapegoated if the Eagles don't live up to expectations? When you look at this team, this roster, could be on the field, could be off the field.
I think more than anybody else, it is Jalen Hurts. I think it is. Look, we said last year he didn't have some of the pieces around him he needed. This year, you have that. He has everything he needs to succeed on offense. He has been given, a full year of starting under his belt. He knows what to expect. He has all that stuff set up for him. He actually has a better defense on the other side of the ball that should help them, in my opinion, get some better field position than they've had in the past as well. With Nick Sirianni, look, this is only his second year. His contract is obviously going much longer. With Jalen Hurts, this is the year. You put up or shut up this year. And while he is the big scapegoat in my mind, I also think this guy thrives in this position everywhere he's been in his career, from college, all the way through up till now. Let's see if he does it again. We've seen him. He looks like he's been working hard this offseason in the weight room. And I got to believe the way he is, what we know about him, that he's been doing that behind the scenes with film as well. So I think if you look at it and say, okay, he is going to be the big scapegoat in my mind if things don't go well. I also say this guy has thrived in these situations. And if you look at their schedule, the football gods are smiling down on them. I think it's set up for them and for him to possibly have a pretty good year.
Scott, we talk a lot about what we believe the Eagles are going to do on offense this year. Well, no one really knows until they get out there and they actually start running some plays. But with the major addition they made at wide receiver, A.J. Brown, you've got to believe they're going to try and pass the ball more than they did last year. It's not going to be hard since they were the most run-heavy team in the National Football League this year. They made it work for them. But we all project that they're going to try and be different this year and be more pass-heavy. If that's the case, how much of the Eagles' passing offense is going to include the running back position? Last year was not a major part of the Eagles. The passing game wasn't a major part of the Eagles. And if the passing game is down, the passes to the running backs are going to be down. what's going to work for the Eagles out of the backfield this year? A lot of people are projecting Kenny Gainwell to have a bust-out type season. He caught the ball for under 200 yards last year. Miles Sanders was great as a rookie catching the ball out of the backfield. Hadn't done diddly the last 2 years. How much is throwing to the running backs going to be part of the Eagles' offense this season?
I think that's a great point, and that's going to be kind of the X factor in some of these games, Jody. When you look at it, this team did not, utilize that position a lot in terms of throwing the ball to them. But these are guys that can succeed in space. Miles Sanders can succeed in space. He's just got to be able to catch the ball first, which at times in the past has not been easy for him. Kenny Gainwell, I agree with you, could end up having a huge year. Just simply playing it out, the game of chess, right? A.J. Brown gets covered or double teamed. They stay, tight on, say, Devontae Smith out there. Well, where do your options end up being? If they're overplaying a certain spot on the field, somebody's going to be left wide open. And a lot of times it could be that running back that leaks out of the backfield. Sometimes it may not even be the designed play, but you have a great offensive line like they do. You get enough guys blocked long enough, and a running back leaks out of the backfield and suddenly has 10, 15 open yards in front of him. I think that could be a huge part of this offense when you stop and look at it. Because I agree with you, they are going to look to pass more this season. Like you said, they really can't pass less. And I think that when you have this offensive line as solid as it is, the big caveat, as long as it stays healthy, that you really could end up having a great offensive year this year. I still think the running game is going to be a big part of it. They want to keep the threat of Jalen's legs alive every game. So you're going to see some of those calls where he does take off and go on a designed quarterback run. But they also want him to stay healthy, and that's going to be a big key too. But I think that's going to be something to watch early in the season with this team is, everybody's all jacked up about A.J. Brown out there. The opponents know about him. Devontae Smith had a good rookie year. They're going to play up on him as well. Either tight ends or your running backs are going to have to be the ones that catch a bunch of those passes when those guys are covered. And I think Kenny Gainwell's a guy who really could have a big year.
When it comes to Kenny Gainwell, because I'm with you, Scott. He's got tremendous natural ability as a receiver, whereas Miles does not. So I think those two are going to be clearly defined as sort of Miles as the early down back, the RB1, so to speak, and Kenny's going to be the third down back and the hurry up back. But I've heard this floated by people with the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts is so effective as a runner. You take away some of those outlet plays, whereas somebody like Phillip Rivers, who this coaching staff can't stop talking about because he's such a smart player and they love him so much. And, he would have to dump the ball off to an outlet receiver, a running back. Jalen Hurts, if he dumps the ball off to Kenny Gainwell, you might get 10, 15 yards, as you said. If he holds the ball and runs it, he might get 20. And it ends up being a better play. And the Eagles are sort of on that tightrope, as you mentioned. I want to keep them healthy. But how do you keep them healthy? Design runs, I think you want to scale back those and say third down. Go get the first down. That's the most important down. Do it by hook or by crook. That philosophy, what do you think of it?
I understand it. But and we've seen this with quarterbacks in the past. You can tell them you want them to do something. And when they get out in that open field, or they have that opportunity to go get, say it's 3-4 yards on one of those, read plays that Jalen does so well. That's a design play. He reads it well. They have the tools to do it. Do you do it that way, or do you drop back and let the play develop and see what he might be able to get on his own with his legs? Here's the one thing we all know coaches do. When they see they have their number one quarterback, not necessarily a franchise quarterback, but they have their number one quarterback, they all get scared about that guy getting hurt. So then they start limiting the opportunities with hits. How many times can that guy get hit? And they want to start limiting that. We saw that with Wentz. We've seen that going all the way back to even Randall Cunningham, with this franchise. And they want that quarterback to not take those hits. because you've seen even with Michael Vick, they can eventually get caught by somebody and it can knock them out of a game for weeks. This team can't afford that. So I think I'm curious to see how much of a conscious effort is made to keep the hits off this guy. It's part of his game. You can't take him away from running the ball. But in key spots, are they going to say this is a time where we need to let him go? And then are there times where, and I think we're going to learn some of that early in the season, what he's been coached to do when he gets outside that pocket. Are his eyes staying downfield? Because we've seen he missed guys last year because he took his eyes off the field once he rolled out of the pocket. Will he keep his eyes downfield? Let that be a weapon for him because the defense is going to stay put to honor his speed, and that allows a receiver to find a hole somewhere. Well, if you keep your eyes open, John, I'll take your 10-yard gain and I'll raise you 30 yards because he hits a guy downfield. Are those the things we're going to see from Jalen Hurts? And I think we're going to figure out pretty early in the season. Unfortunately, we got to wait till the regular season to really see what happens. But I think that's going to be a big key. And he's got to trust his running backs out in the field in the flat like a Kenny Gainwell. I could go get 20 maybe, but I'm going to take a hit. If I can get Kenny Gainwell to get me 10 and a first down, you know what? That's good enough.
Scott, let me ask you about something we've been kicking around for the last several weeks here on Birds 365 in analyzing the roster. And that's the only thing we can be doing at this stage because they haven't actually started the season yet. One area that does kind of look like a potential weakness is backup tight end. We all believe Dallas Goedert is sitting on a big year. He got paid last season. He went out and performed and had a tremendous statistical year, specifically after Zach Ertz left, and he became the unquestioned go-to guy at tight end. Well, he's that again this year. And Eagles roster has a bunch of maybes as their backup. Now, we're crossing our fingers that Dallas Goedert's good to go 17 weeks this year. But you never know. There's always the possibility of injury. He does play the game and the position very hard, which means anything can happen any given week. He could go down. Do you think Howie Roseman is good? Do you think this coaching staff is good with the tight ends they have here? Do they believe they have the guy who's going to step up and fill in if Goddard goes down? Or do you think that's an area where Howie is still out there scouring the league and going, yeah, I got to get a better backup tight end?
I think that's one spot you hit on, Jody, that they could potentially look to see who starts getting cut when the cuts are made. This team does that. They scour that wire all the time when those cuts are made, and we get down to that point in the year. Where can we pick up a better option than what we have? Yeah, I agree with you. Dallas Goedert he deserved to be paid. I think he's definitely shown that he can play that role well, and I think tight end on this team is going to be a huge position this year. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for that spot on the field to really move the ball down the field, because I just fully expect that Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are going to get a lot of attention on the outside. So the middle and guys that fly into the outside after those holes are vacated on an out route or things like that could be wide open for a guy like Goddard. And I think he can beat most linebackers off the line. So he's a matchup problem. But you're right, when he goes down, then what do? You don't have that guy right now. And now maybe you have some serviceable guys, but you're going to have to readjust your offense to say my tight end is not going to be my big threat when my wide receivers are covered. So I think, they're going to be watching. I think Howie's good, has shown that he can be good with his coaching staff when he works together with them in watching those wires and saying, okay, hey, this guy was cut. I want him, and Howie go get him. And they can try to fill in some depth there, but that is a spot of concern for sure, Jody.
Another spot that, and I'll give a hat tip to our buddy Jeff Kerr and the people at CBS. It's the list. It's the season of list, Scott. Everybody's got list out. They did their top players over the age of 30. Now, the Eagles have done a good job over the past 2 years sort of repopulating this. A.J. Brown's only 25. You mentioned Devontae Smith. Looks like a really, really good player. Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean this year, they're getting younger. They're getting more talented. They're getting better. But still, the majority of the proven good players on this team are over 30. And 3 of their top over 30 players were Darius Slay, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, 31, 32, 34. Jason's going to be 35, I think, in December. Lane's going to be 33. Starting to worry a little bit. Pletcher, you can add Pletcher to this list. You're starting to worry a little bit that too many of the good players on this team are a little bit too old, or is that sort of too much hand wringing for the offseason?
No, age is a key. Age, I feel like, is a key number in football more than any other sport. You could look at baseball and see 40-year-olds still succeeding, unless you're a punter in the NFL or a field goal kicker. Your age doesn't matter. But everywhere else, I think age is a big key of when the wheels are going to start to fall off the wagon. Not for every guy, but for most of them. And so I think there is concern there. But John, perspective is such an interesting thing because, as you pointed out, this team just 2 years ago that's what we were all screaming in the offseason. This team has to get younger. They can't continue to operate at that age and be successful. And they have found success through youth in every position along the way that with the players you mentioned. They've added through the draft much better, which has been a big key because we've all ripped Howie for some of his draft performances in the past. And I think as you look at some of those players, you do worry about the age. How's Brandon Graham going to respond from this injury? And he's had a full year almost to get over that, which is great for him. And I do expect him to come back and have a good year. But you don't know. And Jason Kelsey's been talking about retirement for 5 years. But mentally, he seems like he's fired up for this season and really wanted to come back and see what could happen. But, Fletcher Cox, when we could talk about whether bringing him back was the right thing to do or not. I think he's going to be more of a depth player, which is, then you worry about, how's he going to respond to that? That's not something he's had to do much in the past. And so I think age is a concern for some of these guys. Darius Slay's one of those guys. You can see the guys who take care of their body, I guess is a good way to put it. And when you see a Darius Slay running around, I feel pretty good that he's going to be okay this year. He's also out there in a corner. The biggest thing you worry about with them is a broken wheel at some point running around more than the contact. Elaine Johnson, that guy is so important to this offense. Look at what he did last year, barely even giving up a sack. I mean, but he goes down and you worry all those times he drops back, and you see those slow-mo replays. And these guys, when they drop back to pass block and they plant that right leg in his spot, it's at what time is he going to plant that? And his age is going to say, listen, my bones are starting to break down here on this body, and I'm going to give out this play because that guy you're pushing that's 350 pounds, I don't really can take that anymore. And so I worry about the age of some of these guys. But in Lane Johnson's case, I really do like the depth on this offensive line for the most part. I feel like they're a good offensive line on starting role, and we haven't said this a lot in the past. I do feel like they have some depth behind them, and we've seen that withstand at times in the past. But am I concerned about the age of some of those players? Yes, football more than any other sport to me. Age is not just a number. It matters, and I think that they have to continue to trend in getting younger as time goes on for sure.
Scott, just before you hopped on with us, I stated to my partner, I think one of the most oversold stories of this offseason is, Jalen Hurts, his second year in the same system. No coaching change. All right, it's nice, and it'll make things a little bit easier, but I don't know if it's the cure-all that some people are looking for. But the more you do something, the better you should get at it, the easier it should be. Is that the case with year 2 of Nick Sirianni? We're only 12 months removed from Nick opening up his first camp ever as a head coach. That is work. That is unknown and uncharted territories. But he's got the full year under the belt. They had the success and the end that they had, but most people didn't think the Eagles were going to make the playoffs last year, and they did. And Sirianni proved to be a legitimate head coach in the NFL. How much easier, if at all, is his job here in year 2?
I think it's going to be much easier. I think experience for a young coach is not something you should understate. I think that first year was big. And I feel like in my mind, you could almost divide that first year up into 2 separate seasons. The first season, if you remember, they were pass happy. They went nuts with the passing game, and he was calling the plays. And that proved to be not a good first year if you want to divide it up into that. His second year, the second half of the season, obviously, was much better. And he stepped away from some of the play calling more and more, started helping Jonathan Gannon a little bit and recognizing things on offense. Now, and they didn't have to, this is the other key. they didn't have the personnel on both sides of the ball that either coordinator wanted. And so now you've said, okay, well, we gave you the personnel in the offseason. You've got a year of experience under your belt. Jonathan Gannon, we kept saying, and I think this was the case, and we'll see if we're right or not, just wasn't able to go into his playbook nearly the way he wanted to. We called his defense vanilla. It was basic. They weren't getting pressure on the quarterback. Well, now they've got pieces to really do that. And so I want to see what kind of defensive playbook is Gannon going to roll out this year. Are we going to see if, in fact, we were right last year? That obviously benefits Sirianni and his offense, but from the simple standpoint that they're going to get better field position if some of those things happen, and they might get some turnovers along the way. Short fields are loved in the NFL, and so you look at the experience that that Sirianni got last year, and I say he learned a lot throughout the season. You saw a guy who was willing to evolve at a young age. Some of these older head coaches are so set in their ways. I will call the plays on this team until this ship sinks, and it might even mean their job.
Yeah,
he decided to, you know what, the team and what we can do as a team is better. The players responded. To me, that's the biggest key. He never lost that locker room, and I was afraid early on that he might. And I talked about that several times throughout the season. I thought that these older players were going to look at this younger coach. The things they were doing weren't working, and they were going to go, whoa, this season, let's start making off-season plans now. And he didn't. He kept that locker room together. The fact they got into the playoffs for me was huge. I didn't care how they performed in that playoff game. Just getting Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, some playoff experience to me was huge. And then you go and you play it forward and you say, okay, well, they've gotten the personnel now on both sides of the ball to be more dangerous. They've got more experience in some key spots. They've got good young players that they filled in. Kobe Dean, I love that addition. Huge. And Hassan Reddick. I think that's another huge addition on that defense. And then you look at the schedule and you say, wow, this really played up well. This defense isn't going to face an elite quarterback really all year. Don't give me Dak Prescott. I don't consider him elite. I think he's good. He's not elite. And I think that this defense really should have a schedule set up where it succeeds. It's going to make things easier on the offense. This offense has better players. So does the defense. These coaches, I think we're going to see, are going to be able to show more of who they are and who they can be. So you talked at the beginning, John, about expectations. I look at this and say, I think the expectations are pretty high, which then also means that if you fail to reach them, that seat's going to get pretty hot that they're all sitting on.
Yeah, it certainly is. Scott Grayson, follow him on Twitter at SGraysonBox29, Anchor at Box29, host of Props and Locks, so you could win some money if you watch Scott every Friday. Last one from me. You mentioned Jonathan Gannon. Everybody says vanilla defense we're going to see this year. You're right. That's the narrative, Scott. Jody and I don't know if you heard when you were in the green room, this team was 32nd in the NFL. There's 32 teams, 32nd in the NFL when it came to pre-snap motion. Are they too vanilla on offense as well?
Yeah, I think they were last year, and that's where you talk about a running back like Kenny Gainwell. We can go back to that conversation, so to speak. Well, what's the best way to get him open out of the backfield? Well, put him in motion. Make linebackers have to stick with these running backs as they go from one side of the field to the other. And I think we are going to see a lot more because, again, what I saw from Nick Sirianni last year was a coach who was willing to evolve and say, maybe I don't know all things right now, but I'm going to pay attention and try to learn from them. These coaches, the good ones, spend a lot of the offseason self-scouting themselves, right? They're obviously looking at their opponents, but they go back and they look at themselves. And I think that's one of those glaring things, John, that you brought up that he's not going to like to see. Wow, we were last in pre-snap motion. That can't happen again, especially with the weapons they have. What's the best way to avoid getting bump and run at the coverage at the line?
Yeah.
Be in motion.
Especially with
they
Devontae.
can't check you.
Yeah.
And go ahead and try to bump and run with a guy like AJ Brown. I guarantee you that guy is so strong he's going to beat you. So I gotta believe there's going to be a lot more, pre-snap motion. Are they going to be the number one team in the league this year with it? No, I think we're looking at they put themselves somewhere in the top 15 to 20. That's already a much better improvement. But I think that's something that Sirianni will look at and say, wow, where did we fail a little bit as an offense or as a staff in calling some plays? Well, let's get some guys in motion a little bit more and make some things happen from to our advantage with the pieces we have that way.
Scotty, I did get a text while we were doing the show here. It came from this guy named Aaron Rodgers. He said, WTF, did Scott Grayson really say we're not playing a franchise quarterback this year? So you might want to get back to Aaron on that one.
I misstated by saying no, but they have very few elite quarterbacks.
Very few, yes. I think
they're going to face this year.
I think Aaron will accept that apology.
Yeah, that works.
Last thing, any specialized programming on Fox this year around the Eagles, tied to the Eagles that we can keep our eye out for when we get this thing underway next week?
Well, like John said, we have our Props and Locks show, which deals with all football things as we get closer, Eagles especially. But then we will still have our game day live coverage. The day of the game on Fox, you'll want to keep an eye out for that. We, of course, have the Super Bowl this year, so we'll be building out and rolling out some special programming as well related to that once it gets closer. Whether that's related to the Eagles or not remains to be seen. And I think a lot of people, while saying that they would be optimistic that they get there, it's not realistic right now. So those are the things we've got going on right now. We've got a lot of things we're throwing in the fire, whether or not they're going to end up coming out the other end. You know how that goes on the production side. But yeah, we're definitely going to keep an eye on this team. And I think, like I said, I think the expectations are pretty high all around.
As well as they should be. It's kind of a wide open NFC. Scotty, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on board. We're going to have you back plenty as the season rolls along. Give our regards to our buddy Shredder. Thanks for joining us this morning.
I will do. I appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you guys too.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott Grayson, Fox 29. He's already got his summer color in, unlike McMullen and McDonald. And you got to go outside starting next week.
I got the bucket hat ready.
What SFP do you use?
The biggest one. You go aside. Now, actually, the Eagles give out free suntan lotion.
Do they?
I just grabbed that as I go into practice.
You're as cheap as I am. I love
it.
No,
it's not about cheap. It's
of course it's about cheap. Because the Eagles aren't going to give you the max protection.
Probably not. I think it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. They got a tent.
That only makes sense at the Novacare complex that they come across with something like that. But you better get lathered up, buddy. If you're like me, you could burn.
Oh yeah,
real bad.
Oh yeah, I'm not a dummy, Jody. Come on.
All right, dude.
I'm an Irishman. I know.
Irishman who doesn't like to go into his wallet. You and I are so similar, it's ridiculous. All right, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Scott Grayson, pretty optimistic. Well, no, I don't even want to go there. He was tempered in the things that he had to say. And coming up in about 25 minutes or so, not so much. Bob Grotz from the Delco Times is going to jump aboard with us. We still got plenty to do. You should stay right here on Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left. Fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the poles and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
He is the fair-skinned John McMullen and the just as Caucasian Jody McDonald. You got your Birds 365 guys here with you. Counting down the days till Eagles training camp opening up. Players report 8 days from now, next Tuesday. And Johnny Mac does not expect to be there day number 1. He has not yet received his Eagles schedule. Chomping at the bit, checks his emails every 15 minutes.
Yeah, I do.
It's
kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
When did they? Can you remember back to last year? Do you know how far out they sent you the first version?
Yeah,
of
it was
the Eagles
probably
schedule?
it was probably similar, but man, I get I get emails from most of the teams around the NFL, and they're all in. Let's put it that way. I mean, everybody gets their ducks in a row a little bit quicker than Philadelphia.
So hold on. You're on the Seattle Seahawks emailing list?
Yeah, I'm on just about everybody's emailing list. I used to have, a national column, Jody. So I'm still on everybody's email
okay.
list.
All right. Well, that's good to know. So out of the 30 teams, 32 teams, how many would you say have put out their preseason, at least week 1 schedule?
I would say at least 20. We're past 20, I would say. A lot of teams, as we said, a lot of teams have to do it early because they're bringing in rookies like Buffalo and the Raiders. Obviously, theirs have been out for a while. And then as this week goes on, more teams will be populating. So that's part of it. But it is strange it's taken this long. Now, they do have to deal. They have the largest media contingent in the NFL, and they have for years and years and years. Even bigger than New York, bigger than Chicago, bigger than everywhere. It's pretty amazing. So they have a lot of logistics to deal with that other teams don't have to. So that's part of it as well. But I like to tweet them.
And yes, John expects an email sometime soon. His name might be 86th from the list for questioning the.
They know I'm joking. They know I'm joking. Okay, it's all in good fun.
I'm hoping that's the case for you, Johnny Mac. All right. I did check out your latest missive on JAKIBsports.com. You've been previewing each of the positions, breaking them down in interior offensive linemen, exterior tackles, interior offense and defensive lines. And your latest one was the cornerbacks. After doing the entire offense, you got through the interior and the linebackers with the Eagles. Now you've moved on to the cornerbacks. The top 3 guys are given, and the top 3 guys are very good. I would put the Eagles' top 3, including Avonte Maddox, as your inside cornerback. With any other threesome in the NFL, if you're talking about using 3 DBs, three cornerbacks, and the NFL is, what would you say the percentage is on that, John? Amount of snaps on defense where teams have 3 cornerbacks on the field.
It's about 65-35 now. So, one of my pet peeves is people still call base
defense
or 3-4. It's not the base. That's the sub package.
Right.
The base is the nickel. Vontae Maddox here played, I think, I put it in there. I think it was 65-ish, somewhere around there. He played 65% of the snaps, which was a career high. He had bounced around a little bit early in his career. They finally settled down in his natural position, and he played really well. So you're right. That first three is really good. Certainly one of the best trios in the NFL on paper. Now, we'd like, James Bradbury coming off a down year, but we had Pat Leonard on. Remember, Pat said he was playing through an injury. So that's a positive. Just a really good player. Darius, I just talked about, he's 31. I'm not concerned as much as the age as the regression to the mean theory, I'd like to say. How can he have a year like he had last year? Probably not. I mean, if you're going to be realistic, 3 defensive touchdowns. I think he was third in the NFL when it came to passer rating, when they were throwing at him. Third best. Gave up 30 yards a game when he was traveling with receivers. That's pretty tough to duplicate. Really tough to duplicate. But he's still going to be a good player, really good player. And then Avonte is just solid. One of the best nickelbacks in this league.
And if you believe the Eagles will get more defensive pressure this year through hook or by crook, either because Jordan Davis steps in, changes the dynamic, gives them more of a middle push, draws more attention on the defensive line, which allows the speed guys like Hassan Reddick, everyone's banking on double-digit sacks for him, being a force in getting into the other team's backfield. It should make things easier on the cornerbacks for the upcoming season. We'll see. So if they're good in the 3 starting spots, the question is, who are the top 3 backups at each position? CB1, CB2, and in the slot with Avonte Maddox. They've got a lot of guys, a lot of which they went out and acquired. It wasn't just undrafted free agent signings. There have been draft picks used. There have been trades where guys have been included. There are a lot of guys who've been talked up pretty good, but have never really done anything on the field just yet in their career. Who are the top 3 backups right now, John, in your eyes, going into the season? CB1, CB2, and nickelback.
Well, I would say right off the bat, they have 13 cornerbacks on the 90-man roster. So real quick, if Darius Slay gets a hangnail in camp, he might sit for a week. They got so many bodies at corner. So the theory is, they'll be able to find somebody among all these young players. It's interesting in the OTAs. If you just go by the OTAs, it's Zach McPherson, Mac McCain on the outside, Josiah Scott in the nickel. But I don't think how that's going to end up. This team seems to really like Tay Gowan, the player they acquired in the Zach Ertz trade. He has everything they look for in an outside corner. Is really, really long, really, really fast. I think they want him to succeed. They picked up Jimmy Moreland on waivers from the Houston Texans. They wanted him for years. They liked him when he was in Washington. They tried to acquire him before. He's a natural slot corner. They have a lot of natural slot. I think Zach McPherson should be playing in the slot, to be honest. Kerry Vincent should be playing in the slot. So while Josiah Scott starts as the backup because he's been here the longest, ultimately, I think one of those guys is going to beat him out. So if you ask me who are going to be the top 3 backups, in my opinion, it's going to be McPherson, it's going to be Gowan, and then it's probably going to be Vincent. Maybe Moreland can beat him out. Maybe Scott can beat him out. But they have some versatility as well because McPherson can play inside, and I would argue he probably should be playing inside. But the 4 guys who are going to be here are the 3 starters and McPherson. Those are, and then it starts to get a little bit murkier.
All right, John, if that is still up for debate, who gets the final vote? When one of the Eagles' starting three corners go down, somebody's going to have to fill in. You gave us a pretty good breakout of the way you see it. But who's going to get the final say? Is it the defensive backs coach? Is it the defensive coordinator? Is it the head coach? Or is it that guy up in the front office who you just said they went out and got Jimmy Moore because they've liked him for so long? Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon weren't here when the liking of Jimmy Moreland started. So that's Howie Roseman. Who's going to make the decision who does step in? The three starters are unquestioned. But who is going to get those key fill-in plays when somebody goes down is still to be determined. Who's got final vote?
Well, Howie, technically, if you're talking by definition, I mean, Howie has control of has control over the 53-man roster. Now, would he exercise that control and say, no, we got to keep Jimmy Moreland? I don't think so. I think that comes into play with, we talk about all the time, first round picks, second round picks, Jalen Reagors of the world, JJ Arcega-Whitesides of the world. Sometimes those guys get kept, and they wouldn't get kept if it were just up to the coach. And if the coach had complete power, say it was Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick, and they had control over the 53. So ultimately, when it comes down to a position like corner where the Eagles have 13 and all these young players, yeah, Howie's going to, who does Nick Sirianni want? Who does Jonathan Gannon want? Because Nick is a CEO coach, remember now. So he's going to be involved in all of that. Jonathan Gannon, Denard Wilson, the secondary coach. If they say, we want Tay Gowan and Kerry Vincent, the Eagles are going to be fine with it. Howie's going to be fine with it. I think that kind of stuff you're talking about, that's the Jalen Reagor conversation. That's the Eagles coaching staff might not want Jalen Reagor, to be honest. They might have Jalen Reagor, if you get my drift.
I do get your drift, which is understandable on both fronts. Why the coaching staff would be ready, willing, and able to move on from him. They had nothing to do with him being here to begin with. And the general manager might want to just hold on to him a little bit longer so as to save getting egg on his face with the first-round draft pick that he used on Mr. Reagor. He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're going to punch up our next guest a little early. I need to exit stage left a little earlier today. So looking forward to talking to our next guest. He is one of the harder-hitting Eagle beat reporters. In other words, glass half empty. Always fun when Bob Grotz from the Delco Times joins Mac and Mac, McDonald and McMullen here on Birds 365.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up,
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
You got me, Jordan McDonald, and my partner, John McMullen, here on Birds 365. We are still waiting for the bat signal to be answered down in Delco. Bob Grotz from the Delco Times is going to jump aboard with us at some point here. We asked Bob to jump on a little early because I needed to jump out a little early myself on the back end. So he'll be streaming in any second now. We're looking forward to chatting him up. And as a matter of fact, he's
in the green room. He's getting ready.
His last sip of whatever that was before he joins us. There he is, Bob Grotz of the Delco Time. All right, first things first. What the hell was that pink glass you were drinking out of?
This is a Wawa, yeah.
It's a Wawa.
Wawa action.
Yeah.
Is that what they use down in Delco?
I'm not a big Wawa coffee guy. It's good, but it's not the best as far as I'm concerned.
It's not that AM PM hyper beam.
You got to go to Shady Maple.
Yeah, Shady Maple. Yeah,
yeah. They got a coffee shop out there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Where the hell is Shady Maple?
It's about 45 minutes west. It's out in I don't know what, God's country.
Yeah, we're getting close.
You pass the horses and buggies, John.
Yeah, we're getting close to Lancaster out in Shady Maple.
Hey.
Yeah, that's a little bit too far, but it is good. I haven't been there in years.
Yeah,
we're giving them free
great market. Great market. They're having a big meat sale this week, Jody.
Nice.
The meat there, Jody. The meat is so fresh. When they put it in the bag, it's still moving.
That's good to know. Not only have I not been there, I've never heard of this damn place.
It's the market. It's not the smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's a smorgasbord and farm market, Jody.
I stick with the Amish market over here in South Jersey, and it's perfectly fine.
The one in Williamstown, that's a good place too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an excellent
there,
place. Yeah, excellent. All right, everybody got their smorgasbord farm market Amish market news.
I think
I'll
have a cup of
guys. I can't wait until training camp starts.
Yeah,
all that heat. We get to see what's some 11 on 11s, no contact.
This is
whoa. You sure you're going to see 11 on 11s?
Yeah,
you might be putting the cart. You're spending too much time in Western Pennsylvania putting the cart before the horse. How do you know you're going to get 11 on 11s?
Yeah.
Well,
what do you need 11 on 11s for?
Yeah, the inner squad. Once they start practicing with the other teams, you'll at least get to see that. So,
I imagine you have to. You still.
Hey, by the way, did you see that video of Hurts at his camp?
No. I saw.
He was at somebody's youth camp. Yeah.
No, he did his own youth camp. Yeah.
Oh, he did his own. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't throwing the ball too well. I counted 0 for 6, and I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, the bad. I heard he had a bad youth camp practice. But,
yeah.
We'll see if he can. Well, we'll see if he can shake that off.
Those
Sean Bradley had his youth camp. Jalen had his youth camp. Hassan Reddick had his youth camp. Everybody's got a youth camp now. Bob Grotz, I believe, has his youth camp for journalists.
I wish I had one. I really do, because I could have written something on some more taxes off. Not that
You
I make
always
that much
take
money,
those
but
Temple kids under your wing when they show up to the NovaCare complex.
yeah,
Bob is very
Well.
helpful to the youngsters. Very helpful.
Bob
Yeah,
Grotz's youth camp is going to be held at Shady Maple in Western Pennsylvania. For those of you wishing to attend starting next year. All right, you're going to show up with McMullen next week, middle of the week, when the Eagles actually do send their schedule out.
I can't wait.
They're going to have a season. We know that. We just don't know when it's going to officially get underway in South Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni's second year as a head coach. What'll be different from Nick Sirianni's first year as a head coach, Bob Grotz?
Well, I hope a few things. I hope he was kind of predictable last year. They could. I mean, they had to scrap the offense basically from what they wanted to do early, a passing offense to a run offense. But then, I mean, to me, it was fairly predictable. So I hope that what he's learned from or taken from that, and I'm sure he has, a little bit more creativity. And
there we go. There's that word.
Yeah,
creativity. 32nd in the NFL in pre-snap motion.
Yeah, they need to. They definitely need, and I'm sure they've had some quote unquote experts take a look at the film and say, this could really help you do this or that or the other thing, So I think we're going to see some of that, and that creativity too. It also that goes hand in hand with the personnel that you have. They're going to be able to do some things this year that they couldn't do last year. They're going to have that. They have at least two guys on offense that you got a game. Well, possibly three that you got a game plan for. The big three of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. So that should help out. But I really don't want to see him run the ball as much either. Can Hurts, is he the guy that can do it? Can he put it up a lot and be successful? Kind of mixed reviews on that last year, but it'll be fun to see how they tailor this offense to those strengths and to the skill set of Jalen Hurts.
Well, you mentioned tailor the offense. Are the Eagles trying to pound the square peg in the round hole by forcing Jalen Hurts to go away from what he does best, and that's running the football, off-schedule offense? Why are they trying? Why not? In other words, if you have Jalen Hurts and his strengths, why not try to accentuate those rather than try to make him into what he isn't?
That's a great point, and I think we're going to see, how they deal with that whole thing. His ability to create play, create. I'm using that word way too much right now, but his ability. I mean, he can make plays. There's no doubt about it. But is he going to be able to get out of the pocket, scramble? Is he going to be able to run and get those first downs for 17 games this year? I think that's a lot to ask. So and hopefully he's learned something. Nick was talking about that, his mechanics being better too. Now I couldn't tell. Yeah, I can't tell. And I don't think we'll know until the games actually begin about his mechanics and that. And he went to that, the Tom House passing clinic out there. He got some, or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure that didn't hurt. And he looks like he's in great shape. I mean, he looks like,
it does. He looked like he lost a little weight, but he doesn't want to hear that. But he looks like he lost weight to me.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. We won't really know until they start playing some games, but we will be able to figure out, what type of chemistry he's going to have with these guys, even in the practices with the receivers and how what he sees. He's still not the tallest guy when he's out there on the field. And, that hasn't been a big obstacle for some other people. But we shall see with Jalen Hurts. This is going to be – it's going to be fun to see what happens here because he has some real quality skills. And I think he can make the throws. Can he make them consistently? To be determined.
All right, PG, I got a chicken or the egg question for you. Last year, the Eagles about 6 or 7 games in, we could try and define it down to shoot the exact moment that they made the decision. Hey, we got to run the football more. And they did, and it was successful, and they made the playoffs. We also found out after the season that Shane Steichen was calling the plays in the second half of the season, that the head coach gave up those responsibilities, passed it on to his offensive coordinator, and he did a good job with it. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did Sirianni decide, hey, I need to give this up, and Steichen just took it and ran with it, literally? Or did they decide, listen, we're going to need to go run first here, and if that's the case, maybe Shane would be better doing the play calling? Which do you think came first? The Eagles' decision to become more run-based, or the decision to make Steichen the play caller, which led itself to leading with the run?
I'm going to take the easy way out and say it was a little bit of both, you know. But let's face it, there was a lot of stuff that was going wrong with that offense early, and they had a good game against Carolina, but most of the other games, I mean, they were just so predictable. You just knew what was going to happen. So I think Nick. I think he also had he was worried about the defense too, Jody. I think that was another reason why he decided, hey, maybe this is the best way to use my time, is because he had to focus on that too. That defense, remember that they got shelled. What did they gave up? What a 70% passing completion percentage, or to a bunch of quarterbacks. They were all good quarterbacks. I'll give them that, but that defense got, they were just blown up, so he had to devote a little bit more time to that too, and figure out, and even give some suggestions. So I think it was a combination of those two things. So, this year, I think having, knowing what they have, I wouldn't be surprised either. Right now, Steichen is, it looks like he's going to do it again, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nick was calling those plays if things go right, but as the season grinds on.
Yeah, and it's Nick's offense. I wrote about that on Sports Illustrated this morning. So he went into a big dissertation about how no matter who's calling the plays, they're going to be run the same way and all that kind of thing. So it was Las Vegas where the Eagles changed to a run-first offense. So that was week 7. Shane took over week 9 fully against that Chargers game. So a little bit, they had already decided to go run first. My question is, Bob, we had mentioned with the pre-snap motion and being last in the NFL, you know how the narratives go in this league. Everybody likes to talk about creativity, and we've mentioned that word a lot. It's kind of nebulous, though. Nobody knows what they're talking about. They just want to see bells and whistles. How quickly does that change if the Eagles sit there and there's no motion and they're slogging down again, and we see 15 freaking wide receiver screens? I was gonna poke my eyes out if I saw another wide receiver screen early in the season. How quickly does young, innovative coach change to this guy's overmatched if he doesn't sort of play the game in the NFL? You got to show some things.
I'll tell you, A.J. Brown, I mean, you looked at the way that he was successful. One of the ways he was successful with the Titans was he was in motion. So I can't imagine an Eagles offense this year without seeing A.J. Brown in motion. And Devontae Smith, I could see the same thing with him.
That's a player. He was great in motion at Alabama. They would use him all the time. And it's like, why don't you take some of that with Devontae?
Right. So I can't imagine that. I don't know that. I don't know where you draw the line on the creativity with the motion and the personnel that they have. But I think you're going to see a lot more of that this year. And it's going to be, if they run this thing right, and John, I was telling you the other day, I think the guy the consultant for this offense is Phillip Rivers, out there retired. Jody, that's kind of the inside joke. I mean,
yeah. Oh, they love him.
They talk to this guy all the time.
Yeah.
So, but and there's your quick passes and your rhythm passing and all that, and get the ball out of your hand quick and take a loss if you have to. If they run that offense, that would be an upgrade, if you ask me. I mean, they throw the ball a lot. I think they'd be productive, and they have guys that can get yards after the catch. That would be an upgrade to the passing offense. But however they put this thing together, and there's just a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of ways they could do it. They better be scoring some points, and they better make the playoffs again this year, because the expectations are through the roof, and they have some upgrades. They've done that. They've upgraded on both sides of the ball, and they better go at least 9-8, or maybe 10-7, or there's going to be some more changes. And there's always changes, but there could be some interesting changes, and depending on how the quarterback does, maybe that could be one of them.
All right, BG, I need you to choose a descriptive phrase to describe the contribution of the Eagles' third-round draft pick this year. Will what Nakobe Dean brings to the Eagles in year one be more startup costs or significant contribution? Which do you think those two is more likely for this season?
I'd lean towards the startup costs, because he wasn't healthy to do much of even workouts. So I think this is going to be kind of a year where a transition type of thing for him. But if he's as good as the scouting reports, and if he's as good as some of those highlights that I've seen, if he can be consistent and stay on the field, then they've got something. But I still don't. I remember I got an argument with you on the last show, Jody, about how big the guy was. I don't think he's that big of a guy, but he plays very fast, and that's going to be, but that size thing, I don't know. And the way he plays, I mean, he just bangs around out there like a pinball, hits people. I don't know how, if you can you stay healthy for 17 games doing that now. But that'll be fun to learn. And and the other guy too, Jordan Davis, the big tackle. I'd have him right in the middle of those two items that you gave me, because I think it's going to be a transition for him too. I know other people think he's going to be able to just step right in and be a plug and play guy, but I don't think the guy is really, and it's not just stamina on that, but if you look at the way he plays, he's going to have to learn how to really get down low, because in the NFL, even the guys,
low man wins.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's going to get jacked up a few times if he plays that high, but that's going to be fun to see too. So, but the guys, those two guys definitely pedigree. So but I still think it's a little bit of developmental year for them. I was looking at the depth charts of the NFC East teams, and because I think the Eagles had a pretty good offseason, and I looked at the other teams, and I think those other teams did pretty well too. I mean, on paper, if you look at it, and their defensive line.
Out of the three, who do you think did well? Giants, Commanders, or Cowboys? Who's the most improved, or who just held their ground the best of those three?
The Giants, they got Thibodeau. I
think anytime you get 2 picks in the top 10, you better get some stinking talent.
They got another offensive lineman. They had so it looks like they got their 2 tackles. Daniel Jones is coming back, but they don't have a receiver though. Kenny Golladay, or what's his name? Golladay. Yeah. That guy's a coach killer. I mean, wherever he goes. I mean. So they need a threat there, and I don't think Saquon Barkley is. I don't think he's the big play guy that a lot of people thought he was. But you look at their defensive line; it's pretty good. Leonard Davis, and there's a couple other tackles there. I mean, that's enough to cause problems. Their secondary is pretty good, And the same thing with Washington. Their defense is pretty good. The defensive line, it's going to be
defensive line is pretty good.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. The Cowboys upgraded a little bit on that defensive line. They lost some guys too, but the Cowboys offensive line, though, it still needs a lot of work. So, but the Eagles, they really need those rookies to come through, Jody, to make this, to win the battle of that offseason.
Let's talk about those Washington Commanders, Bob. Carson Wentz, excuse me. It's been what it's been. We had the last season here, Indianapolis. He was okay statistically, but didn't show up in big spots. Obviously, the owner couldn't stand him.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
And now here he is bouncing to Washington. He's better than what they had at the bare minimum with Taylor Heineke. Has Carson got anything left that the Eagles fans should be a little bit wary of? Maybe this guy's going to come back and haunt us in the NFC East.
Well, he'll be prepared for the Eagles. I mean, he'll go out of his way to do some extra preparation for them. But you look at, and I think he does have something left. But look at that, the Washington, the offensive line, man, that thing.
Not good.
Name two guys on that line. I mean, it's just not. They lost that. They lost Brandon Sheriff.
Yeah.
They lost. They lost the left tackle a couple years ago. But that thing is a shambles. So I can't imagine. For him, it's going to be about survival back there. They'll be able to maybe run the ball a little bit, but they're going to have trouble scoring points. But they're going to be a problem with that defense. So, I think can he still win games? Yeah, I can't imagine what it must be like to line up every week in a sport like pro football and where the owner hates you. And you're walking down the hall, and everybody else is saying hello, and he gets to you and he doesn't say anything. I don't know that that's exactly what happened, but I can imagine. So and Carson could be smug too. The two of those guys, looking away from each other at the same time. That would be good video. For the morning.
But he doesn't have to worry about that with Daniel Snyder because he's on his yacht somewhere over there in Europe. He's hanging low. He's not going to even be here for the Washington game.
Yeah.
He's got to wait for the year to run out so he doesn't have to go in front of Congress.
He's got to run out the clock on Congress. Yeah.
You could make a movie about Daniel Snyder's offseason. I mean, all the stuff that, if we found out just a little shred of what's happening, there's a lot of drama in that. Yeah. I still think that guy Bezos is going to end up buying Washington. I think something's going to happen.
Hey, he owns everything else.
I think I think that's going to be it. Yeah, I think he's going to wind up with that team.
I think that smells like about a 10-episode Netflix package put together if they were to be able to lay that out. All right, last one for me, Bob. I asked this question of John, and then he in turn asked it of Scott Grayson, who was on with us earlier. Scapegoat. Like you, I'm trying to be a hard-hitting Eagles guy. Yeah, not even close. But if things go badly for the Eagles this year and they don't get 11 wins like McMullen and I are saying, or 10 wins, or even 9 wins like they did last year, they have a losing season, something will have gone wrong. Certainly expectations are higher than that. And somebody's going to have to pay a price. If we assume that Jalen Hurts is numero uno on that list.
Yeah, he's
going to be
or the coach or the head coach.
You would put the head coach before the defensive coordinator?
I can't imagine that defense not playing better this year. So they have some players. I think they upgraded the pass rush, the secondary for sure. So I would say, the head coach, and the quarterback, and with the quarterback, you'd always have to go to Howie. People are going to start ripping him again. He's a favorite target. And you look at their schedule this year. Compared to last year, this is a really easy schedule. They're just like guaranteed to win in the open.
Last year was pretty easy too, man.
It started off tough.
Yeah,
it started off tough.
Yeah,
but the way it shook down later, it was easy.
Yeah.
But, So I can't, I don't. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens because there could end up being a lot of scapegoats in that situation. So, and their offensive line really, to me, it's still the strength of the team. So, as good as the defensive line, as much as they've upgraded, but you look at one injury there. If they lose one guy there, they got some problems. They have some backups, but that could be tough. So especially against the competition that they're playing against, and even in the NFC East with the defensive lines, there's guys that Kayvon Thibodeau can run down Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, probably can. But same thing here with Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean. Their startup costs with all rookies. Same thing's going to happen with Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal. Maybe 2-3 years down the line, those guys are going to be really, really difficult to deal with. But I do think you're going to have a bit of a ramp-up period. Bob, at Bob Grotz on Twitter. Follow Bob there. Read him at the Delco Times, delcotimes.com. Let's talk about that defensive line because you and I are getting it. You're a little bit down on Fletcher Cox. The Eagles gave him $14 million. You talk about that depth. Jordan Davis, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, Fletcher Cox inside. Outside is Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Tarek Barnett, Jody's favorite, Teron Jackson. Still pretty good depth on the defensive line. Fletcher, you think he's a descending player?
Oh, yeah. I think he's been descending for a couple years, yeah. He just and
nothing left. How far are we? How far are we down that road?
With Fletcher Cox?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say he's about a 5.5.
All right.
Yeah.
So he's past the demarcation line.
I'm still puzzled by that $14 million. I mean, there must have been some promises, that somebody told somebody things that weren't true. I don't know what's going on with that. I think that the tackles, I know you guys laughed at me the last time, but I like Milton Williams.
I like Milton. Yeah. I just don't think he's going to have a lot of playing time because how's he going to get
I do. I think he's going to, because, depends on how they use Fletcher Cox and Davis. They're gonna want to ramp up snaps for Davis, but I don't know that the guy can play more than a couple, especially early. I think we're going to see how fast he is running on and off the field early in the season, John. How quickly he can get.
Well, he's fast.
The biggest guy on the defense, coming in and out of the game so much.
He's going to, It's going to be interesting to see who Aaron Rodgers catches, not getting off the field quick enough, because he does it every week. It's probably going to be Barnett. It might be Jordan Davis. As fast as he is, he doesn't know how savvy Aaron is with that. Somebody's going to get caught with that.
Yeah, and Barnett, looking at that depth chart again, I mean, I know that they re-signed him and everything, but I look at that depth chart and I say, Barnett's still here?
Yeah.
Even though I know it.
Yeah.
Even though I know he's here, it's kind of like Odubel Herrera.
Matt Leo's still here. Of course, Derek Barnett's still here.
Yeah, right. I mean, so, and they wouldn't have signed him if they didn't expect to get some big time snaps out of him.
He's going to play. Unfortunately,
so
Jody and the
rest so how good is that group? Are they? And Hargrave, this is a contract year for him, right?
Yes, he's on a contract year, and he's 29. I think that's an underreported story. I think people just assume the Eagles are going to re-sign Javon Hargrave. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. We'll see what Davis. We'll see how close he is, and we'll see how some of those other guys, Milton Williams, how they do. I think, I don't think that's a lock either. Javon Hargrave coming back.
Yeah.
So,
in 2023 is when you're going to get a lot of Milton Williams. A lot of Milton Williams.
I think you're going to get it this year, but
good for you, Bob. You're sticking to your guns. You think somehow Milton?
Oh, I hear the phone ringing.
There we go. It's like you're in the newsroom. I thought you're at home. You're in the newsroom.
No, I think that's either Howie or the director of phone return your calls.
That's Dom giving you a call.
That is funny. The reason why we have him on, perfect example, Derek Barnett, the Odubel Herrera of the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think we need to say anything more than that. I think that perfectly captures the Eagles' re-signing of Mr. Barnett, and also what Bob Grotz brings to the table when he joins us. BG, we'll let you go get the phone. Thanks for coming on. Get out, get some sun this week. Get ready. Get that block 67 on that fair skin of yours.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Get the bucket hat ready.
Yeah.
He will
be guys.
Say Bob.
Bobby. He'll be lining next to John McMullen for grass time starting next week, or so we hope, because the Eagles haven't quite gotten around to releasing their practice times just yet. But when it happens, Johnny Mac will surely be laying it out for us, and we'll be sending them off to the NovaCare complex to get a hands-on first look at the upcoming Philadelphia Eagles season. Should be fun. All right, Johnny Mac, I need to check out a little early today. I got CBS Sports radio duties. So you and Tone are going to take us home, correct?
Yeah, me and Antonio DeShields II, our great producer, Tone, will be up after the break. Jody, go listen to Jody. National. You got to scale it back and go from the Eagles and go national. So that's a quick turnaround for you, Jody, man.
Not a problem. We'll get the turnaround done, and you and I will be back here tomorrow. But don't even think about streaming out. Tone coming up next. He and Johnny Mac going to get you home here on Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, got fake a mom. Mama go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Good morning, Eagles fans.
guys are locked in on your dose of Birds 365. I am your host, Tony Shields II, the man behind the scenes, the producer, the maestro, and I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, John McMullen. I'm in for Jody Mack, who had to step out just a little bit early. My man had to take care of his national duties, but the show has been great thus far, and again, always excited to be a part of this team with these guys. Now, John, I have to ask you, you guys talked about the cornerback position earlier on in the show, and I know you mentioned who the Philadelphia Eagles are pretty high on, guys like Tay Gowan, Kerry Vincent, but who are you high on?
Of the young players, I assume, obviously, we mentioned the starters, Tone, are pretty rock solid. That's one of the best groups in the NFL. So it's tough not to be high on Darius Slade, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox as a trio. As far as the younger players, yeah, I mean, a lot of unproven, a lot of bodies, a lot of unproven guys. But of that entire group, the guy that intrigues me the most is Tay Gowan, because Tay is everything they look for physically for an outside corner. He's about very long, very fast. You have to see if he can hold up physically. I do think it was a little bit interesting that when they started spring work, he was behind Mac McCain, which kind of surprised me. So maybe there's a little bit of a, sort of the spring is more about classroom work, so to speak. So maybe Mac's picking up things a little bit quicker. You have to see how it all shakes out. But from a physical standpoint, Tay Gowan's everything they look for in an outside corner. They wanted to draft him. Now, late in the draft, he was a 6th-round pick. They wanted to draft him. They weren't able to, and they got him in the Zach Ertz trade. So they've had their eye on him for a while. He's just a good developmental prospect. But I am concerned. I don't think any of their young cornerbacks are ready to play if somebody were to go down. So Zach McPherson would be the first guy in there. I don't think he's ready to play. Tay Gowan, Mac McCain, Kerry Vincent, probably a bit of a concern. So maybe that's where a guy like Jimmy Moreland, who they picked up on waivers, has got a little bit more experience. Maybe he's got a better chance than people realize because he sort of knows how to play at the NFL level.
Yeah, it's interesting because before we brought in James Bradbury, I was of the mindset of, look, I understand we lack depth at that position, or I guess we lack reliable veteran talent outside of Darius Slade and Avonte Maddox. And, it's been quite some time since the Philadelphia Eagles cornerback room has been this stout, right? Having a guy like Darius Slade, who's been reliable throughout his entire career, who had arguably maybe a career year last year, maybe from various angles. Avonte Maddox, in my opinion, who had an amazing year last year. One of my favorite plays by him was the batted down pass to Robbie Anderson in the end zone was a touchdown saving play. That if that ball gets through, who knows what we're talking about? Maybe we're 8-9 instead of 9-8. And then, bringing in a guy like James Bradbury, a guy who's had a solid career throughout, had a bit of a downward tick last season, mainly because of the Giants not having too much depth behind him at that safety position. He got left hanging, but when it came to those young guys, I'll be honest, John, my mindset was let these guys grind it out. Let these guys battle it out. And that was prior to James Bradbury coming in. I knew we needed extra help there, but I was willing to allow those guys to battle in training camp because in my mind, iron sharpens iron, and eventually the cream will rise to the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Nick Sirianni always talks about is that competitiveness, that he wants guys competing. And it's interesting, there isn't a lot of jobs open on this team, especially amongst the starters. Like
that's a first.
Yeah. Right guard, there's a little bit of a competition. Third receiver, who's going to be the second linebacker? There's a few things, maybe one of the safety spots. But you could feel pretty confident if guys stay healthy, they're going to be starters. And that's the case with Slay and Bradbury and Avonte Maddox at corner. So when you talk about the rest of the bodies, they have 13 corners on this 90-man roster, Tone. So you're talking about 10 other guys. Yeah, just let those guys compete. None of them are proven. The next most proven commodity is what I mentioned, Jimmy Moreland, who played in Washington a little bit, was with Houston, more of a nickel back, more of a slot corner, so he would potentially be a backup for Avonte Maddox. Zach McPherson played a handful of snaps last year, but he didn't play a lot, and he didn't play well when he did play. And then you talk about those other guys that the Eagles talked about all offseason before they got Bradbury. You remember they were talking up Tate Gowan and Kerry Vincent, Mac McCain. Nick Sirianni would bring him up. Howie Roseman would bring him up. Those are your young players you're looking. And then the Eagles spent a lot of money in undrafted free agency on corners. They got Josh Jobe from Alabama. They got Mario Goodrich from Clemson.
I'm glad you brought those guys up because I want to know, do you think guys like Mario Goodrich and Josh Jobe, and excuse me for cutting you off, John, but do you think those two guys in particular can challenge guys like Kerry Vincent and Tate Gowan for those backup roles, or even challenge Zach McPherson, a guy who had an up and down rookie campaign?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said it should be a true meritocracy in the fact that, you know, whoever is best should be on the team. The problem is, look, you're probably going to keep 6 corners to start on the 53. 4, as I mentioned with Jody, are locked in, and that's barring injury, and that's Slay, Bradbury, Maddox, and Zach McPherson. Those guys are locked in. And so you're talking about 2 spots. And I would say, you know, judging by spring work, you know, Mac McCain starts ahead, Josiah Scott starts ahead. But I do think Tate Gowan, Kerry Vincent, and even the young guys have a chance to open some eyes because there is no proven commodity. Other than a little bit, as I mentioned, with Jimmy Moreland. So I would say odds are with Jobe and Goodrich and also Josh Blackwell out of Duke. Practice squad, most likely, is their goal for the first season. But look, if they go out there and outplay Tate Gowans of the world, Mac McCain's, Josiah Scott's, yeah, why shouldn't they earn? A lot of times GMs, Jody and I talk about this all the time. A lot of times GMs like to show off with undrafted players and say, look, I found this guy. He wasn't drafted. Right. So you have that part of it in the equation as well.
So let's take it a step further, right? I have a question because, you know, earlier in the offseason, the Jesse Bates rumors were at an all-time high. Now, the word is he most likely will not show up for training camp, and he doesn't plan on playing on the tag. Now, those rumors have started to arise again. Eagles fans are shooting for the hills when it comes to Jesse Bates. Me personally, I think it's a far cry from even happening. I don't even think financially or fiscally it makes the most sense for us at this present moment. But I could be wrong. You know, what are your thoughts on the I guess you'll say the return of the Jesse Bates rumors coming to Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, it's
in the mix.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, okay, you know, the Eagles need a safety, even though they signed Jaquiski Tartt. They still need help at safety. So, you know, he's a fit from a football perspective, certainly. You know, if he walked in here tomorrow, he'd be the best safety, obviously, on the Eagles. And he's one of the best safeties in the NFL. So that's not necessarily a knock on the Eagles. I have seen, you know, look, you can't just give away players you don't want. So I've seen this sort of mentality. We'll give him Andre Dillard and you know, something else for Jesse. Well, why does Cincinnati want Andre Dillard And the thought is, well, they had a bad offensive line. Well, they did last year, but they did a lot in free agency. They brought in Lyle Collins from Dallas. They brought in Alex Kappa from Tampa Bay. And they have Jonah Williams as their left tackle, who was drafted in 2019 as the 11th overall pick, I believe. Same draft as Andre Dillard. Like, the Bengals don't want Andre Dillard. It's not a fit. It's not a fit for them. So you can't just say, hey, give us one of your best players and we're going to give you something we don't want. I mean, too many fans go in that direction. It's, you know, it's not a fit from a trade perspective with what Cincinnati would need. Now, that's number one. Number two, Cincinnati's not going to give away Jesse Bates. There's not much he can do. He's not going to sit out the season. Ultimately, he's going to come in. You get significant fines if you don't show up for training camp. And those fines are no longer allowed to be waived. So he's going to lose a lot of money if he sits out. So ultimately, you know, he doesn't have to sign his tender, and those fines won't start accumulating. So I guess in theory he could, you know, sit out the season, but I don't think he's going to go that route. And then from the Eagles' perspective, you're going to have to pay significant money. Obviously, he's not playing. He's not happy with the franchise tag. So you're paying top of the line money. Plus, you're going to have to give up probably a first round pick.
Absolutely.
So no. In short, for all those reasons, I don't think it's a fit.
Yeah, fiscally, from an asset and capital perspective, it just doesn't make sense for us right now. I don't see Howie Roseman giving up a first round pick for a safety in any way. We got about 5 or 4 minutes left in the show. John, let's have a little fun. So I have a few questions for you. I want you to give me a little bit of some of your astute predictions. That's the time of the year right now. People are throwing out predictions and their lists. So I'm going to ask you about the 3 stat categories that Eagles fans care about the absolute most. And that's touchdown. That's touchdowns, that's interceptions, and that's sacks, the infamous sacks. Now, what I want to know from you, in your eyes, by your estimation, as we know now, as the team is presently constructed right now, who leads the team in touchdowns? Now, this excludes Jalen Hurts because obviously he's the quarterback. He's going to have the most touchdowns because he's responsible for a lot. But from the skill position guys or the running backs, right, who leads the team in touchdowns? And then on the defensive side, who leads the team in sacks? And then who's going to lead this team in interceptions? Go.
Touchdowns is probably the toughest one because I could see that going in a lot of directions. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Can't see it going to Miles Sanders.
Hey, he might surprise us this year, John. He just might surprise us. It's a lot on the line for him.
Yeah, I think because of his size in the red zone, and I think it's going to be AJ Brown. But that can go in a number of different directions. Sacks, it's going to be Hassan Reddick if he's healthy. I mean, this team hasn't had an edge rusher who's had double-digit sacks since Connor Barwin in 2014.
Right.
So it's been a while. And he's been able to get double digits in Arizona and Carolina. So even if it's 8 or 9, he's going to lead the team in sacks. And then interceptions, I think it's going to be Bradbury because he's going to have the most opportunity. Or Marcus Epps, but I think it's going to be Bradbury. Teams aren't going to want to throw at Slay. They got to throw somewhere, and he's going to have those opportunities. And I think he's coming off a down year, but as I kind of mentioned, Tone, he played through an injury last year, so that was part of it. And he's a really good playmaker. He's really good he's a really good zone corner. The Eagles are going to play a lot of zone, at least on his side. He reads quarterbacks well. He's a veteran player. He's very savvy. So I think it's going to be James Bradberry. And that's, by the way, of those three categories. Now, I say Reddick would be the most competent, followed by Bradberry, followed by Brown on touchdowns.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that as far as, being the most confident about Reddick, right? He has to be successful this year. Like, this team's and the defense, the success of this team, the success of the defense hinges on Hassan Reddick being able to get to that quarterback, but also just the defensive line being able to generate pressures and penetration and creating gaps and creating lanes for guys on the second level to probably, leak through and get to that quarterback or just prevent the running backs from being able to get to that second level and beyond. But, you guys, it's been an amazing show. It's been an amazing Monday here at Birds 365 for JAKIB Sports. And again, make sure you guys go check out John McMullen's pieces on JAKIBsports.com. And also, when the season comes around, Domo, the man, the myth, the legend, the Hall of Fame voter, Paul Domowich will be writing for us as well. So make sure you guys lock in on JAKIBsports.com. There's a lot of content going on there every single day. So you guys do not want to miss out on this. Why would you want to? The Philadelphia Eagles season is going to be electric. This might be the most exciting season that we've had in quite a long time. And you want to be along for the ride. You want to know the ins and outs of your Philadelphia Eagles. You don't want to miss a beat. But, John, I have to ask, are you going to be here tomorrow? Because Jody's going to need you to hold him down.
I am planning on it. We're all day to day, I always say, Tom. But I am planning on being here.
Hey, absolutely, my man. And look, I'm going to do, as I always say, my best Jody Mack impression. John, Eagles fans, we'll be back in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.